What's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make sweet potato cornbread. This recipe went viral on TikTok and I kind of follow it but made it a little bit into my own as well, since I add honey to it and some of the recipes on TikTok do not add honey. I usually like to start by peeling 2 decent sized sweet potatoes. I usually get the bigger ones but I couldn't find them, and I'm also not using as much sweet potato in this recipe because I don't want my cornbread to be super moist. I want it fluffy like you guys saw it at the beginning of this video. Once I peel my sweet potatoes, I go ahead and chop them into smaller pieces just to make it easier for them to cook and so they can cook a little bit faster. This is how I usually cut them. Sometimes I cut them smaller. I go ahead and put all of the pieces of sweet potato into a decent sized pot because we want it to have room to boil. And, you know, we want to cover it to the top with water as well. I usually add a little bit of salt, but today I forgot. I just like to add salt to it. Don't know why. I want to go ahead and cover that up and boil it for 45 minutes so they can be super soft like they are right here. I put it into a mixing bowl and add about 2 tablespoons of butter, a decent amount of vanilla extract to my liking, as well as some cinnamon. Some people add nutmeg to this recipe. I don't really like how nutmeg tastes, so I opted out from doing that. After I add those ingredients, I go ahead and mix this, smash them up like smashed potatoes basically, until it's evenly distributed and there's no clumps of sweet potato. That's why I boil it for 45 minutes so they can be extra soft like you can see right here. Once everything is evenly mixed, go ahead and start following the instructions on the cornbread mix box. Or if you're making cornbread from scratch, if you like to mix the regular stuff, go ahead and do that as well. But I went ahead and added 2 eggs because I am using 2 boxes of the Jiffy cornbread mix. I usually like to get the honey one, but I couldn't find those that day that I went shopping. And I added some sugar. The sugar is optional. I just like to add it to make it a little bit extra sweet. And I also add honey to this. I don't do sugar on a regular, so holidays when I bake something, that's where I get all the sugar from. After you add that sugar and that honey, go ahead and mix everything really good, and then go ahead and add the first box of your cornbread mix. Or like I said, if you're making cornbread from scratch, well, cornbread batter from scratch, you go ahead and do that. I mix this very good before I add the second box because I do not want to have clumps, and I want to make sure everything is evenly distributed. That way I can make sure my cornbread bakes properly. If you don't mix everything together too well, I promise you your cornbread will not bake evenly, and that's when you have one side that is fully cooked, the middle is messed up and it's wet, all that stuff. After I mixed that very well, I went ahead and added the milk. I use evaporated milk. I did not use the recommended amount of milk for this mix for the 2 boxes because like I said, I do not want my cornbread to be super moist like it usually comes out, and I wanted it to be fluffy. So I went ahead and added a little bit of baking powder as well as some baking soda just to make sure that this cornbread roast a little bit and make it a little bit taller and fluffier because that's the consistency that I'm going for. The last times that I have made this sweet potato cornbread, like I said before, it comes out really moist and it tastes good and everybody likes it, but I like the regular cornbread texture. So that's why I went ahead and added just a little bit of each. I don't really have a measurement for it, so I just added a little bit. It is optional if you don't want to add it. I also went ahead and tasted this mixture and added a little bit more of cinnamon and went ahead and added a little bit more honey because I wanted it to be a little bit sweeter. I also added a little bit more vanilla extract to this. Like I said, it's to your liking, so you can add as much as you think you would like or your family would like. You don't have to make it exactly like I'm making it here. Make sure you mix all of that up and then go ahead and get a large pan and spray it with a nonstick spray, or you can use thawed out butter and get a napkin and just put it all around. Go ahead and drop all of those mixed ingredients into this big pan and make sure you evenly distribute all of this. Get every last drop from the bowl or you'll be stuck licking it just like I like to do and stuff. I don't know if it's safe, but I go ahead and do it. I already tasted it to make sure if it was good. But anyways, just go ahead and finish putting everything in there And once you do that, one thing I like to do when I'm baking is move it around a little bit just so I can make sure that everything is evenly distributed. That way I know that my cornbread will go ahead and bake evenly. I put this in the oven for 25 minutes for 350 degrees, and I made sure I checked it to make sure it wasn't moist in the middle. While I took that out, I went ahead and added some butter to a regular size. You can use a pot or a pan, and added some vanilla extract. And I added a little bit more butter because you want to make sure you have a decent amount. So this is just depends how much glaze you want. I also added a little bit more cinnamon to this, and I added sugar as well, but the sugar is optional. If you just want to use honey, you can go ahead and use honey. I use both sugar and honey. People like to use milk to make it into like a caramel. I don't really like the consistency of it, so I just opted out to use sugar, honey, cinnamon, and butter. So don't have the heat too high for this. Have it at like a 2.5, 3, if that. You do not want this to bubble or boil. Just let everything melt slowly, and it should look like this when you are finished. I let it cook a little bit just longer, but I just wanted to show you guys the consistency of it. And go ahead and spread that glaze all over your cornbread. Make sure you evenly spread it out with a spatula. And when I tell you, everybody's gonna love this. And if you don't want to do this right now, you can go ahead and put this in a little small container and let your guests or your family go ahead and pour it on top as much as they like on their cornbread and stuff. And I promise you they're gonna love it. Every single time I make this, people tell me that they don't want a birthday cake or anything like that for their birthday. They just want this honey glazed sweet potato cornbread for their birthday. This is what it ended up looking like when I was finished. If you do poke holes in your cornbread, it will taste even better because everything is just going to go ahead and go in there. And after that, this is what it ended up looking like. This is fluffier than the other times that I have made it. I'm still perfecting this recipe for you guys, and I will have measurements next time, I promise. If you guys like this video or make this at home, please let me know in the comments down below.